I am 80 years old. I was born in 1945, baptized in 59, married in 63, and last autumn, after 61 years of marriage, I buried my husband. Raymond was an elder in the Mifflinburg congregation for 50 years. He was 84. He died in our front room, in the bed they had set up there at the end, and I was the one who closed his eyes. Now, I want to tell you what I did the morning after we buried him. Not the funeral, not the casseroles the sisters brought, not the kind words. What I did, alone in the house, with the door shut, by myself, for the first time in 61 years. Before I tell you what that was, I need you to understand the house I am about to take you into, and the rule that does not end when the husband does, because the secret of being an elder's widow is not the grief I expected, the grief I had braced for since the doctors first said the word terminal. The secret is what is still standing in the front room when the body is no longer in the bed. Headship does not die when the man dies. The society does not let it. 2 elders are already on their way to your door before the casseroles have stopped coming. And the woman in that house, the woman every sister in the congregation calls Sister Hartwell, has a choice she has not made in 60 years. The society calls that choice obedience. I am going to tell you what I called it, the morning I made it. Stay in the room with me for this one. Sit down. I'm not going to hurry through it because I cannot hurry through it. I am 80, and slow is the only way I have left. If you have ever sat in a house the morning after a funeral and wondered which of the things in it were yours, leave one word in the comments below for the next widow who finds this video. One word, any word, so she knows somebody else was in that room before her. The morning after we buried Raymond, I came down the stairs at 6:30. 61 years of coming down the stairs at 6:30 because Raymond rose at 6 and he liked his coffee waiting. The pot was still where I had left it the day before. The cup he used was upside down on the dish rack. I stood in the kitchen and looked at the cup for a long time because I could not decide whether to put it away or to put coffee in it. That is the kind of small thing nobody warns you about. You think the grief will be the bed, the grief will be the closet, the grief will be the suit hung up after the service. The grief is the upside-down cup. The grief is 61 years of muscle and habit, asking a question my body still knew the answer to, and the answer no longer being needed. I made the coffee. I drank it standing at the counter the way I never had, and then I walked through the house. I walked through it slowly, the way you walk through a place when you are deciding what it is going to be now. The front room, Raymond's chair still pulled out from the table the way he left it. The literature cart by the door, the magazine bag hung on the hook. The watchtower from the week he died, still on the side table, dog-eared at the article he had wanted to discuss with me. The Kingdom songbook on the piano, open to 1:14, because we had sung 1:14 at the meeting the Sunday before he could no longer go. All of it, just where the 2 of us had left it, the last time the 2 of us had still been a 2. I went upstairs, the bedroom. His side of the bed unmade. I had not been able to make it. His New World Translation on his side of the nightstand, and on my side of the nightstand, the one I had not moved in over a decade, was my mother's New World Translation, the 1961 edition, the one Pearl had pressed into my hands on the morning of my wedding in October of 63, with Ephesians 5 and 1 Corinthians 7 marked in pencil. The Bible my mother had given me to teach me how to be a wife. I had kept it on the nightstand for the last decade because Raymond was sick, and I read the daily text to him in the evenings, and Pearls was the Bible I read from. The print is large, the pencil is faded. The pages where Ephesians 5 lives are soft, almost cloth, from 62 years of being open to that exact page. I stood at the foot of the bed and I looked at that Bible. I looked at it the way you look at a thing you have known your whole life and have only just this morning begun to see. My mother brought us into the truth in 53. A sister called at her door in the long, lonely years after the war, and Pearl studied, and Pearl believed, and Pearl was baptized when I was 8. By the time I was 14, I had been baptized too, at a circuit assembly in the summer of 59. By the time I was 18, I was Sister Hartwell, married to a brother 5 years older than me, in a Kingdom Hall ceremony with no dancing and no alcohol, with a reception in the basement and the cake cut by a woman from the congregation who I would later, much later, learn had been instructed not to smile in the photographs. Pearl gave me the Bible at 6 in the morning on a Saturday, the day of the wedding. She did not say much. She said the marriage was to Jehovah first and to Raymond second. She said the two of us were now one flesh, and that the head of the woman is the man. She marked Ephesians 5 and 1 Corinthians 7 with a pencil, because she did not trust me to find them under my own power. Then she kissed me on the forehead, and she went downstairs to help with the food. That was the only counsel I received before my wedding. Nothing about my body, nothing about my heart. Nothing about what to do when I was lonely or frightened or in pain. The Bible was the whole instruction. The pencil marks were the whole training. Submit, submit, submit. Be subject in everything. The husband is the head of the wife, as Christ is the head of the congregation. And I was. For 61 years, I was. I want you to understand something about being the wife of an elder. I want you to understand it not as a doctrine, but as a room you cannot leave. When a brother is appointed an elder, Raymond was appointed in 1972, when the body of elders arrangement replaced the old congregation servant, and Raymond was 32, and I was 27, and our children were small. The appointment is not just his. The whole household becomes exemplary. The wife is not appointed. The wife is conscripted. Every Sunday she sits in the second row. Every meeting she has the same answer ready. Every shepherding call that comes to anyone else's house, she is the woman the sisters call before the elders arrive. Her field service hours are checked. Her children's behavior is checked. Her clothing is checked. Her tone of voice with her husband in the foyer of the Kingdom Hall is checked. For 50 years, I was that woman. I was good at it. Sister Hartwell who could be counted on. Sister Hartwell, whose magazine bag was always clean. Sister Hartwell, whose son went on to be an elder himself in the next town over, in his father's image, exactly. And here is the thing the society does not tell you when you are 18 and being married to an elder. Headship does not end. The doctrine is not bounded by the life of one man. When the husband dies, the wife does not become her own head. There is no doctrine for that. There is no provision for that. The society teaches that an unmarried woman is under the headship of her father, a married woman under the headship of her husband, and a widow is under the headship of the body of elders of her congregation. The man in your house is gone. The committee inherits him. Raymond, in his last weeks in the bed in the front room, did not say much. He was tired. He had cancer and he was 84, and the morphine was kind. But 3 times, 3 different evenings in the last month, he reached for my hand and he said, quietly, the same sentence. Keep up with the meetings. Sister, keep up with the meetings. It was not cruelty. He was not threatening me. He was a man who had served the society for 50 years, and he was passing me, as he had been instructed to pass me, into its keeping. He believed that what he was leaving me to was a kindness. He believed he was making sure I would be cared for. He believed every rule he had ever enforced. He had never enforced one he had not first obeyed himself. And he was right about one thing. 2 elders did come. They came in the spring, after I had missed a few meetings the way I knew they would. They sat in the front room. One of them was Brother Reich, the presiding overseer in his late 60s, a man I had given Bible lessons to when he was a boy of 10. The other was Brother Snook, who is in his early 30s, younger than my own grandson, if I knew where my grandson was, and he sat in Raymond's chair. He chose it. He chose Raymond's chair to sit in, and from that chair he asked an 80-year-old woman who had been a witness for 66 years to give an account of the state of her soul. But before any of that, before the elders came, there was the morning. The morning after we buried Raymond. The morning I stood at the foot of the bed and looked at my mother's Bible on the nightstand. Let me step out of this for a moment. I have lived inside what I'm describing for 61 years. Pearl's Bible, the pencil marks, the second row, the magazine bag, Sister Hartwell. And I want you to know, before I take you any further into it, that I am not inside it anymore. There were months after, there were years after, and I am still inside them. They were the first months and years that were ever, in any way I could call mine, mine. I will tell you what I did with them, but first I have to tell you what it cost to get there, and what I did the morning that started. So the morning. The Bible on the nightstand. I picked it up. It was heavier than I remembered, the way things are heavier in your hands at 80 than they were in your hands at 30. I held it for a long time, long enough that the coffee downstairs went cold, long enough that the light moved across the wall the way it does when a thing is taking longer than a thing should take. And then I did the smallest thing I have ever done, the first independent act of my life. I want you to hear how small it is, because the smallness is the whole point. I opened the drawer of the nightstand, the drawer on my side, not Raymond's, my drawer, and I put the Bible inside it. I closed the drawer, and I left the room. That is what I did. The first thing. The first thing I did in the house as a woman without a husband after 61 years. I moved my mother's Bible off the top of the nightstand, where it had been on display every night for over a decade, and I put it in the drawer. Not in the trash, not in the basement, not burned, in the drawer. I want you to understand what that was. The Bible was not the problem. My mother was not the problem. Pearl had been dead since 89, and Pearl had given me the only thing she had to give. The Bible was an object I loved. It was the soft pages and the faded pencil, and the only thing of my mother's that had outlasted her. But for over a decade, it had been on display. For over a decade, it had sat on the nightstand where Raymond could see it. For over a decade, it had been part of the message the room sent, that this was a household of the truth, that the wife in this house was the wife the society taught her to be, that the marked pages of Ephesians 5 governed the woman who slept on this side of the bed. The morning after we buried Raymond, I did not stop loving the Bible. I stopped displaying it. That is the difference. That is the whole difference. A thing you carry in private is yours. A thing you display is a flag, and a flag has been hung on you. For 61 years the flag had been hung. The morning after we buried Raymond was the morning I took the flag down and put it gently, because I loved it, and because it was my mother's, in a drawer. And then I went downstairs and I did the second thing. I made the call I should have made 20 years ago. There was a sister in our congregation. I will call her Joanne. That is her first name. I'm not going to give you her last. She is alive. She still lives in Mifflinburg, 4 streets over, and she still attends the Kingdom Hall. And what I did to her is not something I want her to find on the internet under her full name. But Joanne is real, and what I'm about to tell you is what happened in this kitchen, at this table, in 1995. Joanne was 36. I was 50. She came to me one afternoon with her 2 small boys waiting in the car, and she sat at this kitchen table, and she told me her husband, a brother, a ministerial servant, was a cold and unkind man, and that she was tired in a way she could not describe, and that she did not know what to do. I know exactly what I said to her. I have not forgotten one word. I told her that the head of the woman is the man. I told her to read Ephesians 5 at home, in the evenings, slowly, with prayer. I gave her a scripture card I had written out myself in my own handwriting, Ephesians 5, verse 22, and I told her to keep it in her purse. I told her that Jehovah saw her, that her endurance was an offering, that her marriage was the field on which her faithfulness would be measured. I told her to submit. I told her to stay. She did. She stayed. Her boys are grown now. She is 64 years old, and she is still in that marriage, and she is still in the truth. And every time I have seen her in the foyer of the Kingdom Hall in the last 30 years I have known, in the part of me that I did not let speak, that I was looking at a woman whose life I had helped close. The morning after we buried Raymond, after I put the Bible in the drawer, I came downstairs and I sat at this kitchen table and I dialed Joanne's number. She answered on the 3rd ring. I said, "Joanne, this is Dorothy Hartwell. There is something I should have said to you 30 years ago." She was quiet. I told her I had been wrong. I told her I had given her the wrong counsel. I told her I had handed her a scripture card and a sentence and a closed door, and that I was sorry, and that I knew it was 30 years late, and that I was telling her anyway because I was 80, and I did not have time to be a coward any longer. She did not say much. She thanked me. She said she had to go. I have not heard from her since. I do not know if she kept the card. I do not know if she ever opened the drawer of her own, or if she ever will. I'm not telling you this because the call fixed Joanne. The call did not fix Joanne. The call was 30 years too late to fix Joanne. I'm telling you this because the call was the second thing I did, the morning after we buried Raymond, and the first 2 things I had ever done as my own woman were these. I moved a Bible into a drawer, and I told another woman the truth. There is a word for what I had done to Joanne in 1995. It is a plain word. It is not a word from a therapist's office. It is not a word my generation was ever permitted to use about the things that happened inside the Kingdom Hall. The word is coercion. I had coerced her. I had used scripture and my position as an elder's wife and the weight of every sister and every brother who would have agreed with me, and I had coerced a 36-year-old woman into staying inside a marriage that was eating her. It took me 60 years to be able to say that word out loud about something I had done with my own hand. And here is the second thing I have to say, because I will not let myself off the hook, and I will not let the wrong people on it. Raymond was not cruel. Edith, his mother, who trained me in this house every Friday for the first 12 years of our marriage, Edith was not cruel. Pearl, who pressed the Bible into my hand on the morning of my wedding, was not cruel. They were not monsters. They were people who had been handed a manual by people who had been handed it before them, and not one of them had ever been permitted to put the manual down and ask whether it was true. The society does not raise monsters. The society raises instruments. The cruelest thing in this house, in 61 years, was the manual, and not one of the people who carried it. That is the hardest sentence in this whole video. I want to say it again. The cruelest thing in this house was the manual. Not Raymond, not Edith, not Pearl, not me. Though, and this is the part I will not soften, every one of us, including me, had a hand on it. I live alone in the house on Chestnut Street now. I have not moved. I did not move after Raymond died. The house is paid for, and my mother's Bible is in the drawer, and the chair in the front room is still the chair Brother Snook chose to sit in when he came to question me. The meetings go on 3 streets away without me. I can hear the cars on Sunday mornings, the way I have always heard them, except now I am the woman they pass by. Mark, my son, who is 59, who is an elder in the next town, who is his father's son the way I always raised him to be. Mark sends a card at Christmas. A sealed envelope, no return address, no message inside. I am told this is appropriate. I am told this is loving. I do not have his grandchildren. I have never met 2 of them. I am told this also is loving. Joanne, 4 streets over, still goes to meetings. We do not speak. I do not know what she did with what I said. I do not need to know. I said it to say it, not to hear back. Sister Reich stopped me at the post office last March. She did not know what to do with her hands. She said, "Sister Hartwell, we miss you at the meetings." I said, "I miss some of you too." That was all. That was the whole exchange. There is no script for what we are to each other now, and so we made one out of 2 sentences and the space between them. And I went home, and I sat at this kitchen table, the one Joanne had sat at, and I did not cry. I had run out of crying about 30 years before. I want to speak to one of you now, just to one. If you are 60 or 65 or 70, and you have been the wife of an elder, or the wife of a ministerial servant, or the wife of a faithful brother, or the wife of any man inside any system that taught you that the head of the woman is the man, I see you. If you have ever counseled a younger woman to stay in something that was eating her, and you have known in the part of you that you did not let speak that you were wrong, I see you. If you have ever sat in a house the morning after a funeral and not known which of the things in it were yours, I see you. The first week I lived alone, I could not decide what to eat for supper. 61 years of someone deciding when supper was, and what was in it, and what I would be eating, and the muscle for it was just gone. I had to learn it back, one small thing at a time. Toast at 10 in the morning, soup at 3 in the afternoon, no supper at all on a Tuesday because nobody was waiting on it. I wrote down what I did in the order I learned to do it, every small thing. The Bible into the drawer, the call to Joanne, the supper at 10, the afternoon in the chair by the window with nobody to ask me what I was thinking. I called it the freedom years, because that is what those months were for me, and because I am 80, and I do not have many more, and the only thing I have left to leave is the road I made through them. It is a guide, and a voice reading it aloud, my voice, because I know how tired the eyes get at our age, and some things you need to be told, not made to read. And it is laid out over 4 weeks, one for each of the 4 weeks it took me to believe that the house was mine. I left it in the first pinned comment of this video, not because I need you to have it, because I would rather you had it than have it die with me. And that is the whole of it. It is late for me. It is not too late for you.